What's going on, boys and girls? Welcome back to another One Punch Man World video. That's right, you're not seeing the actual game on screen, you're seeing an article here, which will actually give you the honest truth of what's going on internally with One Punch Man World. So I was actually provided this article, and it is a hell of a read-through. So first off, it is originally in Chinese. I got it translated here, so the language here is going to be a little bit off norm compared to what we normally are used to, but I will try to make up for it in any way, shape, or form. Now, this is a document, what looks like being provided by an individual who has a stake in the development side of things, or at least in the company Perfect World or T3. I can't tell which one, but these are staggering things, and I've actually had the privilege of speaking to a few folks from the teams for a little bit, and got the brutal honest truth about what's been going on. And this article pretty much encompasses everything I was told, so I want to kind of go through this and talk to you guys about what the hell is happening here, okay? And be ready, like this is like edge of your seat stuff. If you're into this kind of thing, it may be shocking, or for some of you it may not be, right? So let's go through this. So this is an article written by Tenzi Shong. I'm sorry if I'm saying that name wrong. So pretty much starts off by saying they normally write these snowball articles. I guess snowball articles is an article about like the topic in hand by random, but he was very excited to talk about T3 Studios, who was actually a developer and publisher, I believe, of this game as well too, and One Punch Man projects. And it's quite complicated, so he wanted to actually break this down. So before starting the text, please allow me to briefly lay out some basic background information so you guys understand how the gains and losses for One Punch Man World work from a larger perspective. So first off, background, the pitfalls of content-driven games. So generally speaking, a primary motivation for a game can be divided into the following categories. And this is a really good breakdown because this actually technically applies to all big IP games that are mobile games, period, right? So this is great. So I want to talk about this real quick. So first off, the game needs to be content-driven. So the core attraction of the game is the rich storyline, character development, world building. We've all been complaining about this, right? No content. And what's happening? Players are dropping like flies, right? This type of game emphasizes immersive experience and emotional involvement. Common in role-playing games, adventure games, and narrative-driven games. That's exactly what this kind of game is. It's an action RPG. So, very well put, and this is number one. That is true. Number two, numerical-driven data. The core gameplay... Sorry, guys, one sec here. The core gameplay of the game and the main motivation of players is to improve the numerical attributes of a character or equipment, such as level, attack, defense, etc. Such games often emphasize a sense of progression and achievement, commonly seen in online games. This I don't think they have much of a problem with, right? The biggest issue with this game when it comes down to that, though, is merit. That's something they need to improve, because merit is a nightmare to deal with, especially when you are looking to get a brand new character, get the old merits from rankings. There needs to be a way better way to do that. So that is definitely true, because people play for storyline and then they play for loot and how hard can I hit. Very, very true. Okay? Mechanism driven. The core gameplay of the game focuses on mastering and utilizing complex game rules and systems. The type of game emphasizes strategy, skills, and competition. And this, I think, they've got down to a T. I have to give One Punch Man World credit and T3 and Perfect World on this. I think that is something that they've got down on lock. The game plays fantastically, except for auto mode. Auto mode is a nightmare for some units, but that's a whole different story altogether. And then socially driven. This is, I think, another huge one here. The core gameplay attracts games, lies in the interaction and social interaction between players. World chat is a nightmare. It's useless. I hate it. And the fact is, this doesn't emphasize on community and network building whatsoever. And it's not an MMO, so there's like no interaction between other players, and co-op is scarce. Co-op and PvP is not even... Co-op barely exists because it's just like a couple team battles a day. And then PvP is completely not in the game, which doesn't really matter to me. I don't care about PvP, to be honest. Some people really do, but it's also another way to engage players, right? So I agree here. Socially driven is a massive aspect of it, and it lacks this like deeply. Creative driven. I think this part's okay. It's like a sandbox simulation. I think that they've got a decent exploration mode. It's not too cumbersome. It's not too huge. So that part I'm okay with. And then experience driven. This type of game focuses on providing a unique experience. Maybe it's vision, auditory enjoyment, emotions. I think they do a good job here as well too with art. The music is great. The OST is fantastic. So I think the experience driven part they've got like down pat as well too. So the answer is ask a question. These drive types, which is the most dependent on developers' continuous update content with high intensity. So it's pretty much saying, out of all these, which one matters the most to the developers? The answer is very, very clear. In the 6 categories, the content driven is the most dependent on continuous high intensity update from manufacturers. Once you stop updating new content, players will lose interest very easily. Yeah, bang on. Social drivers also rely on frequent updates to promote interaction between players and community activity. Again, we don't have that whatsoever. The event that came out should have been a co-op event for us to all participate in and kill a world boss together. You know, like that'd be amazing. So very, very well put. Although other types of games also need updated maintenance, but in comparison, there's no need for such high intensity and frequency. For example, mechanism-driven games may focus more on optimizing game balance and game mechanics instead of constantly adding new content. But for this game, new content matters most. Okay, so the success of Genshin Impact let the market realize the huge potential of content-based games. Follow-up Star Iron, the Nishu Huan mobile game, can be regarded as a standard content-oriented game. Certainly, the original Star Inverse Capital itself also is mechanical numerical. So just giving some good examples of really good games that open up content, and Genshin Impact is a incredible example. Honkai Star Rail is not a really bad example either as well too, right? So, but again, those are all IPs owned by Hoyoverse? No, MiHoYo, I think, right? That's the company name. Hoyoverse is the devs, I believe. So this is huge. So what are the main flaws here for this game? Content is consumed too quickly. Extremely high production capacity requirements. If you don't have production capacity, you won't be able to retain players. Very true. Content was so fast in the beginning, and then it's all gone now. There's no, like, they didn't make up enough for it at the end of it. Development costs are extremely high, especially open world or box garden world. Producing content requires taking into account script writing, story showing, role building, scene, etc., music, art, and this is one of the biggest flaws of this game. The content was too small, the costs were too high, right? Players' experience differentiate. Different players may have a different taste for stories and characters, difficult to meet the needs of all players. Therefore, it is easy for some players to have different evaluations of the game. At the same time, it brought about a huge tempo of public opinion, which, again, is very, very true. The way the game was made, but this is, I think, common. I think that one you can't really stop. So, I want to mention Danzi again. Danzi is not a content type like Genshin Impact, but it can be classified as content type. So, anyways, give some more examples here. So, background 2, players are becoming more and more picky about new games, and this is absolutely true. And this is not the fault of the player. This is the fault of the industry. Because they bring out hundreds of games a day that can be played and critiqued and compared, it's become oversaturated. And that's just the business, right? So almost all famous new games, they have a face strict scrutiny from players and fierce public opinion and rhythm from the community, which is very true. This phenomenon and trend is especially serious in two-dimensional games. I originally wanted to introduce in detail the exaggeration of the rhythm and turmoil of the recent two-dimensional new games here, but it is a topic that we need to be expanded on, and I agree there. So the tempo of 1999 was due to raising expectations too high, too early, and then wanting to compete with MiHoYo. And this is true. MiHoYo is kind of the one that set the bar really high, right? So again, this is Genshin Impact, etc. And there's always games that are coming out that are always like Genshin Impact killers, right? OPM will never be that anyways. In terms of business performance, domestic market since Genshin Impact, there's only one general excluding women, the second tour of Famigia back in the future of 1999. It can be considered that we established a firm foothold in the true sense. If the conditions are relaxed a little, at most, add one more, lost forever. If we simply consider the total global flow of water, and I think he's just saying like how much money they've made in the last couple years because of this. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Pity T3 Studio has no clear understanding of all of these topics above. The text I want to write from the follow-up fellow Taoist should be able to find One Punch Man, this new second game project, a project that will never be criticized from beginning to end by fans. And MiHoYo fans, he's using MiHoYo again. How many players have committed taboos? But then the rhythm will be all over the sky. Will it destroy just one T3? So essentially saying the mistakes they're making for this game is it going to pretty much ruin them. They haven't really learned from any mistakes or anything that's positive from the previous examples, right? Okay, so here's how you guys have to look at it, okay? He actually gives you some numbers. So, end of the background, please forgive me spending so much time. It took me 19 years, it took about 19 years for the project to be established, 5 years of development for this game. The total cost is expected to be RMB 200 million to RMB 300 million. I think that's like roughly about 100 million total with licensing and everything that cost that this game was actually to make this game. The current team members are 200 people. It is one of the largest teams in perfect mobile games under development. The project target slogan is modify the ceiling. Okay, starting on February 1st this year in Europe and the United States, companies owned and invested by Sony, subsidiaries, 2 companies acting together, and Southeast Asia, Perfect Spontaneity, open beta, first month of results, the whole month of February as follows. Here are the numbers from Sensor Tower, okay? So with 2.4 million downloads in C, iOS, and Google, they only made 400K. Europe and America, 2.3 million downloads, they made 1 million. So the total is 4.7 million downloads, which is actually a very good number, to be honest with you. But where the problem is the amount of money that it made after that. Total flow of income was 1.4 million, which is very, very small. It's bleak, as a matter of fact. According to this trend, there's a question mark as to whether there will be 50 million turnover in Europe, America, and Southeast Asia in the first year, which is probably not going to happen. Yeah, with the way the numbers are looking, you're not going to make 50 million whatsoever. Worse than revenue is game retention. Perfect itself announced that in the first time Southeast Asia to retain 40% looks okay, but they probably just dared to say that, which probably isn't accurate at all. Let's look at the US, for example. Not even 1 of 10 people stayed. Considering that half of the start was lost on the second day itself, then I want the real European servers to be retained in the first month. 5% are hanging on. 5%, guys, are hanging on. Okay. So what has this product, which has been selling quite well since the launch in 2021, done to deserve these results? And this is where the analysis gets really good, right? So what was the main issue here? The critical issue that had the main problem with this game. So the plot part 1 of the mission is designed to be a one-to-one restoration of the anime, which it is. It's the most eye-catching part, but it has very little content. 5 years in development, I've only finished the first season of the main storyline, which is 12 episodes. Content of the first 7 episodes hit the meteor part, which this is despite a lot of dialogue and branch lines being deleted in the middle. Players have not yet been able to fully experience these 7 episodes. It can only be unlocked gradually by upgrading a corresponding team level. According to the game's upgrade rhythm, players need to spend a month carefully upgrading. Only then can they fully experience the 7 episodes, which are super, super small. And this guy's got it right bang on. Like, there's so much in between. The storyline literally is like a 2-minute endeavor. The rest of it is just upgrading, which is very normal, right? So although the main plot CG has Japanese dubbing, however, the mission itself has no dubbing throughout. This is the only game I've played in the past few years that doesn't feature voice acting in the main storyline. The original plot and side quests are even more mediocre and boring. Original and branch plots open up to first 40 levels. There are all unpopular characters in the IP, which he's absolutely right. The storyline is very simple: catching a thief, catching miscellaneous COS, swatting mosquitoes, very unattractive. So just judging from the amount of content that players can play in the current public beta version, very thin and short. Moreover, these contents are not coherent and experienced. There's a strong sense of fragmentation, and there's not enough immersion. After all that, there's no dubbing. What makes me quite desperate is that they're not hiding anything. It's true. I've only done so much in the past few years, so this is very unqualified and incomprehensible. What did they do within this time with a 200-person team, right? Was it spent on characters? They really put a lot of time and effort in character creation to polish the action design, create a character, for example, the well-received King. But let me not complain first about whether it's putting cart before the horse. I just want to say there is also very lacking in character creation capacity as well too, right? So you can see here, he goes through quite a bit of this. So the writing is horrible, he says. The character creation is very mundane. So there's a couple different things. So the real question is, what exactly happened within the 5 years of development of this game with a 200-person team? So is there any solution now? With my humble opinion, even if I exhaust my brain, I can't think of any possibilities. The reason are as follows. The T3's production capacity has no solution in the short term or medium term. A team of 200 people has not established an effective industrial pipeline. To a certain extent, it's still a small workshop operation. In addition, the level of project management is worrying. Leadership level of understanding of the game market is worrying. So these are very, very good points, right? If you don't have good leadership and your team is still underdeveloped and they don't understand the market, then you're going to fail, right? So the game is weak except for the content-driven part. The mechanisms-driven and numerical-driven parts are also quite mediocre. It can even be said there is basically no advantages found. Generally speaking, in order to alleviate the problem of insufficient content and easy grass growth, games often use PvP to immerse players. There's no PvP at all, right? So that's a big one right there, and that's a huge problem for a lot of players. A lot of people left because of that, right? Game mechanics. The game currently has 4 fun ways to play. The first one is action-oriented, right? The second one is... Where is that? There are 4 groups. Oh, this is the co-op version, which is the teams, or the Abyss, which is what they call it. There's the meat pigeon play, which is, that is the Abyss, sorry. The only player's life can be brought in, fair experience, but there's not much level content. Rewards are refreshed every week and every month. And then, of course, there's the Maelstrom. And then, of course, there's the that a player doesn't have a bad feeling of forced to play. Where's this here? The dailies. There are 4 groups, and one must be tasked. The threshold and difficult. The mini games itself are both acceptable. So he's saying the mini games are not bad. Numerical development. The most important numerical improvement in this game is the character's potential, which is the duping, of course, which is super, super hard to get. Each character must equip 6 memories. We talked about memories already. We know this. So he's just saying a couple examples here how they should have followed another game's version of memories, and they should have copied that instead. Just one more complaint. The maintenance cost of One Punch Man depends on the physical strength. Mainly in Trust a Crusade. This gameplay cannot sweep or jump over, can only be passed manually or on hook, and cannot hang on in the background. Therefore, One Punch only refreshes physical strength every day. It takes half an hour to get started by hanging up. After you finish up using your stamina, you still have to play in small groups. So just saying essentially that the game itself forces you to play, use up your stamina, and then after you're done your stamina, there's really nothing else to do anyways. So there's that. If you rely on content, gameplay development, you won't be able to retain players. There's an emergency strategy. It's just spread benefits and taking initiative to lower prices. So these are all issues, of course, that they have, etc. So all in all, guys, I think this is a very, very good article. So you guys can see it's a lot longer here. There is one thing that's interesting, though, and I do want to bring this up. So far, all I want to express, all I've been written, he wrote 10,000 words, by the way. This is pretty much a freaking book. Almost 10,000 words to write. I like to, and although I like writing snowballs, but I really don't enjoy this kind of art. He doesn't enjoy writing this kind of article, right? All points to the elimination of the T3 team implicating the jobs of more than 200 people is actually on the line. Yeah, these people are probably going to lose their jobs. But also know very well the fate of Yi Punch and T3 has actually been decided during this period. Not my business, has nothing to do with my words, because Perfect's current resources are already stretched thin. Continue to support this team and take risks to join the national server. Too much uncertainty, and Perfection no longer has the ability to estimate so many uncertainties. So essentially, they don't Perfect World doesn't have the capabilities of managing this any further. But I still want to write from the perspective of a small shareholder. So this guy's actually a shareholder who has been in the company for 3 years. It's not an exaggeration to say the current situation of the entire company is critical, but I don't know about Perfect mid-level or higher level, obviously, management. Blind optimism cannot see the existence of crisis. I don't know how many works Perfection has in development that are high hopes like this, but they're completely out of touch with the market. So, and this farce ends with no winner. How many will learn from being perfect? How much reflection do you have? I think shareholders are looking for an answer. So there you guys go. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. I wanted to give this article to you guys because I think it's a great read. It gives you a very good understanding of what the market is looking like and what's going on with Perfect World and what's happening with One Punch Man. And it's not looking great, guys. So anyways, there you guys go. That's the honest truth. This is, again, from a shareholder from the company who works there for 3 years and is being completely transparent and honest about what's happening. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Take care.